baby. Hey guys, and welcome back to Pennies TV with your host. It's not with your host. I'm gonna start that again. That's the podcast, sorry. Hey guys, and welcome back to Pennies TV with Kia. And if you are new here, this is a channel where we aim to dispel your myths, simplify difficult financial jargon, rectify your own personal problems while trying to entertain you as well. I'm back again with another story time, but this one, again, like the other one that I spoke about, if you haven't watched it, I'll put it up here. It's a time where I got into £3,000 worth of penalties from HMRC, a whole story in itself, but definitely worth the watch. Today, I'm doing a story time because it's important to be transparent, and I want to be transparent and unbiased on my platform. So here we are. Story times come with it, and I can hold my hands up that I have made mistakes. Despite having my knowledge, I still make mistakes because I'm human, and I think it's definitely worthwhile to have these conversations and have these kind of like little story times. So today I'm going to be telling you about the time where I got into quite a bit of debt when I was at university. I'm sure a lot of people can relate, but let's just get into it. So to begin with, I've always been good with money. Let's just give you like that disclaimer. My parents have always taught me about money. It was just their thing. As I was growing up, they gave me the relevant lessons at different times. So for example, I was also very entrepreneurial when I was young. So I started my first business when I was 9. I used to sell scarves. So what I would do, what I used to do is my mum taught me how to knit. So I used to go into school and ask my friends and ask teachers, you know, what kind of scarf you want, what kind of style. They would tell me, they would pay me £1. I would go home that evening after my homework, make the scarves, come back in the next day and give them their products. I then went to secondary school and I was selling cookies and donuts. That's another story in itself. But again, I was like that. I was that girl who was selling cookies and donuts from young. So I've just always had that kind of like extra cash, almost like a side hustle, so to speak, from young. So that meant I had to learn to save from really young. And my mum used to take me to the bank. We used to do trips to the bank quite often to put my money into my savings. I had a junior ISA account. So I've always been very involved. My parents have always given me the necessary lessons as I've grown up. Then it was almost time to go to uni. I was moving out to Coventry, as I've mentioned before in other videos. I went to Coventry University, and that was like a total shocker for me. There were so many things I had to learn myself. Living away from home, even things as silly as like you have to pay for Wi-Fi. I had no idea. I had been so comfortable in the family home, and there were so many things I just didn't know. So now I get to university, right? And I get my student loan, but unfortunately my student loan was just about, and I mean just about enough to cover my rent. So I get to university and, you know, I get my first installment, and I actually couldn't enjoy Freshers. So for those of you who don't know what Freshers is, if you're not in the UK, Freshers is the first week when you're at university. It's literally full of parties and kind of different gatherings to meet new people. That's the whole point of it. And I couldn't even enjoy Freshers the way I really wanted to because I literally did not have any money. I was working the summer before I moved in, but even then I hadn't saved up a ton of money. I had a bit of money to survive, but not enough to be able to kind of live the high life and enjoy myself really. So I kind of just got by, but I made do. I got 2 jobs actually while I was in first year. I got 2 jobs up in Coventry, so I had money. I was doing okay. Then we get to the final 2 months before the end of first year. So obviously I'm bogged down with exams. I literally was working so hard because I studied French and business, and French was super hard. I won't lie to you, French was hard. So I was there doing all my exams, and it got to the point now where the final installment comes and I had no money. I should say in this point, there were points where I didn't quite have enough because the jobs I had were more seasonal. So they were like for Christmas or for Easter. They weren't actually proper full-time contracts. So where I kind of was out of employment again, I had to turn to a student overdraft. So I had used up my student overdraft. I had maxed that out and I was like, oh my gosh, but I need money. What do I do? Final installment came, my student finance for that year. And instead of paying all my rent with it, I think I paid half of my rent and I kept the other half literally to survive. I had not enough money. I couldn't even do food shopping. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to do something. So that's what I did. I made the choice and decision to pay half and keep half so I could actually survive. That was fine. It worked for about a month, and then as you can imagine, my accommodation came and were chasing me up, like, you know, where's the money? I went to go and explain to them because we had a concierge in my accommodation. I could go and speak to them. I explained to them what my situation was, that I was, you know, struggling financially, and I was in the process of applying for jobs, by the way. So I was trying to find a job. But as you can imagine, when you're at university, there are thousands of students just like yourself looking for employment, so it was very hard to get jobs in and around Coventry. But I was still applying and still, you know, had high hopes of getting a job. This is where it kind of started my cycle. So I started getting letters from my accommodation. Obviously demanding the money back. You know, we need you to pay it by this date, give me dates. And I was trying to tell them I can't make this, can't make this. Then they started adding on daily interest, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't. What part of I can't afford this are they not understanding? That's when I turned to my dad, and I remember I called him up crying my eyes out, begging him to lend me the money and I will figure out a way to repay him. I said, I'm looking for jobs. When I finally get a job, I promise you, I will pay it all back. I will work as much as I need to pay it all back. He said no, and he said no because he said one day you'll thank me for it. And as you can imagine, 18-year-old me was just like, I can't believe he'd do this to me. I can't believe my dad wouldn't bail me out. But do you know what? On the bright side, I can see it. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have the story today. So, all right, Dad, you're right this time. He said no. So it was down to me trying to figure out what I was going to do. He advised me to go and speak to the concierge and basically just put it in writing, my situation. So I did so, and they said, you know what? Okay, we'll give you 30 days to figure out a payment plan. Like, what are you going to do? Come back to us in 30 days and let us know how we're going to get this money back. So I remember I was applying and applying and applying until at the time one of my friends, she was working in London. She had a job in London, and she said that her place were recruiting. She said they're looking for new people. I can kind of put your CV in, send me your CV, I'll give in your CV. So I did that. She chased them up on her end. They said, yep, bring it out for an interview. And I found out the night before. I kid you not. Imagine it's like 10 p.m. and my interview was the next day at 8 in the morning. I was in Coventry, right? And it's in London. I had no money. I had no money in my account. So she lent me money to get a coach down. And she lent me money to go on my Oyster card. I did that, went down. I tried my absolute hardest in that interview. Literally was like, please, I need this job. I really need it. Did all that, went back to Coventry the same day because I still had lectures and everything, but I just wanted to get that job. Found out a week later that I'd gotten it, which was amazing. So as soon as my exams were done, I went back to London and I went and worked. I literally was working off my debt. That's what I said. I said I need to work off this debt. So I should say, I never actually mentioned how much I was in arrears of. I had about, I think it was about £600 worth of arrears. So £600 worth of debt to my accommodation I had to pay. Anyway, now I started work and I'm working, and I kid you not, I was contracted to 16 hours a week. But in my first month there, I was working 36 hours. And because I had no money, I would commute. I would walk to work, and then walk home. If you're wondering how long that journey was, I was walking an hour each way. I did that for a full month. You can imagine how fit I was. I was super duper fit, but I was doing that. And even then, when I'd have like a 6-hour shift, I would try and extend it to 8 hours or 10 hours. I would try and extend my shifts as much as I could. And some days I'd work 12-hour shifts because I needed the money. So I worked and worked and worked. I think in my first month, when I looked at it, I think I did something like 160 hours in my first month because I knew I had so much debt to pay off. I just needed it gone. So I did that, worked it off, got the money, paid off all my debts. So where I borrow money from people to be able to commute and live, where I owed my accommodation, I owed my dad a little bit because he gave me some money for travel as well. I paid everyone off. So imagine I'd worked all those hours. And I think at the end of it, I had something like £150 to show for it in my first month. But I was relieved because I was debt free. I was very much debt free. Now that leads me into second year. I kept this job. So I'm still working. I'm earning good money. You earn more money in London than you do in Coventry because of the living standards and the cost of living. So I kept working in London, but living in Coventry. So as you can imagine, it's cheaper to live there in terms of like buying food and actually just general living, but I'm earning more money. Great stuff. Then comes a time I was like, you know what? I'm in a better space now. I've got savings. I've got a job. Uni's going well. What's the next step in adulthood? And the natural progression for me was to figure out my credit score. So I checked my credit file before and I said, you know what, I feel like this is a good time to work on that and increase my score whilst I've got, you know, a good bit of savings cushion behind me. So I did what any 20-year-old shouldn't do, I say now, unless you're very responsible. I went ahead and I applied for a credit card. So I applied for a credit card with my bank. So the bank I had a current account with. I applied there because I thought it makes sense. You know, I'm already with them. They'll probably just approve the credit card. I did that. I applied. And they told me that I'd find out pretty much instantly if I got approved, unless it was late, and I applied quite late, so I waited for the next day. I let a whole 24 hours pass, hadn't heard a thing, so I assumed I was going to get declined. So I applied for another credit card. That one got instantly accepted, and then I found out a couple of days later that the first credit card with my bank got accepted as well. So now I had 2 credit cards making its way to me, both of them with a £1,000 limit. So imagine, remember I told you I cleared off my £600 debt plus the stuff I borrowed in first year. I'm now in second year. I've got £2,000 worth of limit on my credit cards. When they came, I splurged. I bought so many things. I was taking friends out to Nando's. I was doing whatever people wanted. I was their fairy godmother. If you wanted something, I just sprinkle a bit of dust on there, sprinkle my credit card on there, and I'd buy it for them. That was me. I don't know what it was, because my parents always taught me that credit cards aren't your money. You know, you should, if you're spending on it, pay it all off in one go. So, you know, the next month, just pay it all off in one go. And that's the best way to increase your score. So I knew it. I had the knowledge, but my youth got the better of me. And that's why I'm telling the story, because I know no one's perfect and neither am I, but that's what happened. So I ran up this £2,000 worth of debt, and then it was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I need to pay this back off. So I was still working, like I said, but I was still commuting back and forth. I still had expenses to pay for, still was living in accommodation in Coventry. I had all these things going on, and this is alongside my HMRC story, so where the penalties were racking up, which, like I said, if you watched the other video, you understand what I mean. The penalties were still increasing during that time. I had all these debts over my head. I was like, oh my gosh, you really know better. But then I started to work out a plan. So one of my credit cards was 0% interest for 18 months. The other one had interest on it. So I made a plan to actually pay off the one with the interest rate increasing first. So that's what I was doing. I would put together a plan. I think I paid that off I think I did it in 5 installments. So remember, it's a £1,000 limit. I just split it up into 5, and each month I knew from my paycheck I was going to take out X amount to pay off my credit card. I did that. The 0% interest one, even though I think at the time I still had like another about 12 months where 0% interest, I just said, you know what, I just want the balance gone. By this time, I had now moved to a better paying job. So I was still in London, but I was earning a good couple of pounds more per hour than I was before. So I had extra income that I could use, and I made sure that that extra income was going towards my credit card. So in that credit card, I think I paid that one off in 3. So even though it was a bigger chunk for my paycheck each month, I said, you know what? I just want it gone. I want to clear it. I want it gone. And that's what I did. I worked to that. And even though I had to maybe deny myself a few luxuries that I usually was used to, I said, it's for the greater good, and that's what I'm going to do. I paid it off. You'll be happy to hear the 2K was gone, and that was a massive, massive learning curve for me. A huge one. So I got myself into this debt at 20 and cleared it all before I was 21. So it's kind of like full circle in that time, but I learned so much, and that's taught me so much about being responsible, which is why I always tell people, if you are looking to take out a line of credit, especially a credit card with the intention of building up your credit score, which was my initial intention, please just be responsible. Be responsible, because it is so easy to fall into that trap like I did. And I'm someone who, I knew better, 100%. I knew exactly what I should and shouldn't do. My dad's been telling me about credit cards for years, so I knew how they work, how people fall into debt, how to not do that, and I still went down that route. So it is so easy and so tempting, especially when you're young and you want to fit in with the crowd. I guess that was part of me as well. I saw my friends ordering takeaway and going out here, and you don't want to be left out. You want to fit in and be part of the crowd. So that's what I was doing. I was spending my money to try and fit in, but I know better. I know way better. So I want to tell the story to anyone who is in that situation or has been in that situation. It's absolutely okay. Even I've gone through it, and look at me now. I'm out of it. That debt is nothing but a distant memory for me, and it's good. It's a good lesson that I've learned. Yeah, I want to tell this story. Guys, you're not alone. I'm here. If you want to learn more about managing your money, this is what we are here for. So if you're new, please hit the subscribe button. There's plenty more where that came from. And we're transparent over on this side. We are honest, we tell the stories, and we love to see it through. So hope you guys are all good. I'll be back again very soon with another video. Bye guys.